Hi, I'm Paul Santinello, and welcome to The Upside, the show where we talk about all the good things that are going on in the town of Long Meadow. This is our first live show. LCTV hasn't been paying the bill, so we got to do it live before the video streaming gets caught up in the internet. I'm just kidding. Of course, they pay their bills. My guest today is Jonathan Moss, and we're going to talk about something very unique to Long Meadow that you really haven't heard too much about before, and hopefully we'll hear more about as time goes on. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This Saturday, that's why the show's being aired live, this Saturday there will be a regatta on the Connecticut River through the Pioneer Valley Yacht Club, which I mistakenly was calling the Long Meadow Yacht Club because I figured we own everything here in town, but that's fine. It's the Pioneer Valley Yacht Club, and on what time does the regatta start?
The racing will begin at 8:30 Saturday morning and go until about 12:30. Okay. And there'll be racers from all around New England and New York State. I think it's 7 or 8 states folks are coming in from.
They're racing the skulls. Is
Yep.
that what they? All right, so I got my racing.
They are long, skinny shells, and they use sculling oars for the most part, which is each person having 2 oars. Though there will be some sweep boats where each rower has 1 oar and needs therefore a teammate to keep the boat going straight.
So we'll have the individual rowers racing, and then you'll have a tandem.
Yep, there'll be singles, doubles, and 4s.
Wow.
At this point, where we're located at the Pioneer Valley Yacht Club, we're kind of restricted in terms of space to launch, so we can't put the 8-person shells out there.
Okay.
But hopefully, as we move into a new facility in future years, we'll be able to launch 8s, which is very common what folks think about in terms of the Olympics and college.
And that's one of the favorite things I like to watch, because you see those races, especially the long ones, they're very grueling, and you see someone all of a sudden have that burst of energy and then take off. So it's going to be this Saturday starting at 8:30. The best place for people to come down and watch it is at the Pioneer Valley Yacht Club.
There's a variety of places people can watch it from. It's a 3-mile race. It'll take the racers about 20 minutes to get down the race course. It starts just north of the Memorial Bridge in Springfield and then finishes right in front of the Pioneer Valley Yacht Club.
Okay.
And it's against the clock. So each boat goes over the starting line by themselves, and the clock starts and it stops when they cross the finish line. Great places to watch. If folks are nearby, they can be on the Memorial Bridge. They can be anywhere along the bike path or Riverfront Park in Springfield. The South End Bridge will be good viewing. From the Springfield Yacht Club in Agawam, and the bike path along the Agawam shore, we'll be able to view the boats. And then, of course, as you say, the Pioneer Valley Yacht Club will be the center of the activities with boats launching and landing and finishing right over this.
How many rowers do you think you're going to have?
We have about 75 boats, and so it's a little north of 120 people rowing in it.
All right, so tell me a little story of how do we get a regatta at the Pioneer Valley Yacht Club in Long Meadow? How does this all come about?
Well, there's been a long history of rowing in Springfield at the crossroads of New England kind of thing, and dating back, I've learned a lot about the history of rowing in Springfield and this area, but goes well back 150 plus years, and there were a lot of regattas here. I came to town 10 years ago, and there was very little rowing happening. And so through the course of time and my volunteering and then our incorporating as the Pioneer Valley Riverfront Club, we had decided to create a regatta, get some interest, and sort of share our beautiful venue and river with folks from around, and people coming from the Charles River and the Housatonic River and the Merrimack River, other folks from clubs all around the Northeast. And this is our 8th year doing it. Last year got canceled because of the storms that we had, and it was unfortunate, but because of flooding and stuff, we couldn't do it safely. So.
See, I think that adds a little element of danger. It's like watching a NASCAR race. You know what I mean? You got
avoid houses that are coming down the river from Vermont.
Gale force winds should just add to the competition.
That's right.
So if you can't handle it, then you shouldn't be in there. You have the Pioneer Valley Riverfront Club, which is really the rowing club that operates out of the Pioneer Valley Yacht Club. How many members do you have of that?
There are probably about 50 or so members. It's hard to keep track because all the members we have are different seasons and stuff, but we have a youth program that's been pretty active. Started 2007, I think, was the first year that we had summer youth, and a number of kids from Longmeadow. Probably over half the kids were from Longmeadow.
Wow.
In the program. Focused really on the summertime, but as I say, as we've grown a little bit in recent years and plan on moving into a facility in the north end of Springfield, we're going to be able to extend the season into the fall and spring and even over the winter for indoor training and stuff.
Okay. Is it an expensive sport to get involved in?
It can be, absolutely. You know, the equipment is extraordinarily expensive as we teach the kids about the equipment and telling them that they're carrying a boat which is pretty much the same value as their parents' car.
Wow.
And so they need to be careful of it and be careful with it.
How does that work out with kids? No.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, training and practice. But and there are hazards out on the river, whether it be debris coming down the river or right now the river is historically low, and so there are logs and other sandbars and things we have to know about and be careful of. But it is a fairly pricey sport. We've gotten a good amount of support recently, though, in terms of grants and philanthropy to help make it affordable, in particular for the kids who want to try it out, want to get exposed to a sport that they never otherwise would have tried out. And so far we're able to do it with some scholarships and stuff as well. Okay,
so let's talk about you a little bit. What's your background? Because I was talking to Doug here at LCTV, who's one of your rowing members. He said he's actually the best, but that's
we'll see on Saturday.
That was private conversation.
Yeah,
I probably shouldn't have said that on TV. What's your background? Because Doug told me a little bit interested in
Sure.
Your background's very interesting.
I took up rowing 25 years ago at Wesleyan University. And pretty much have rowed ever since. That included 4 years on the U.S. national team and competed. I just missed going to the Olympics, but I went to the World Championships for 4 years and the Pan Am Games, won several gold medals, including the World Championship gold medal.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been at it for a while, rowed out a lot of boathouses, all over the world and in venues.
Now, were you part of a team
over.
or as an individual?
Most of my all my national team experience was on a team and in college. But through the course of time and into adulthood, I found that sculling and the ability to jump in a single anytime is a convenient way to be able to continue training. Yeah. And I'll still jump into team boats when able. And I think we'll have both of those happening in our program for adults and kids, being able to do both sculling on their own or as a team or sweep rowing as a team. And it's been very rewarding for me. And I think that was one of the things that hit me when I moved to Longmeadow 10 years ago, was we have this beautiful venue, a river that's pretty much unused or hardly used, with the exception of a few key times of the year, times of the week when folks will go out there to watch fireworks or otherwise. And otherwise, a lot of the rowing happens early in the morning, sometimes in the evening, and it can be very tranquil. And you know, you don't have to mow it to keep a ball field up or anything else. It doesn't take a lot of maintenance, and yet we can go out and enjoy it. And there's a whole lot of Mother Nature and everything else that we can be teaching the kids about.
See, I was going to ask you that because I've used the rowing machine at the gym and it sucks, but that's a different. So when you're out there by yourself and you're absolutely right. First of all, I think the river is underutilized, even by residents of town of Longmeadow, and it's probably one of the few rivers in New England that probably doesn't have the activity that most of the other rivers do in terms of, because if you went to Wesleyan, Middletown, big boat area, and that you don't see that up here as well. And it's just, I know they're closer to the ocean, and that probably makes a difference, but. When you're out there in the morning, I mean, because that's what, sometimes you see pictures of, like, especially out in Cambridge, you see the Harvard or MIT out there rowing or something, you see with the fog coming off of the river and stuff, especially when you're alone. How is it when you're out there I know you're rowing and it's exercise, but especially for someone like you who's done it at a higher level, it's got to be a pretty peaceful way to work out.
It absolutely can be peaceful. The mornings I find are most peaceful, as you were talking about the gale force winds and stuff. Tends to be least windy in the morning. Of course, as the season comes on, it's also coldest, might be foggy, things like that we have to deal with and be careful of. You need to sort of know what the weather is going to turn into before you launch, if you're going to be miles away from safety. We often do it in in combinations with other people so that you're not entirely on your own in case you do have equipment damage or something like that that keeps you from getting back safely. I also bring my cell phone in a waterproof container. Knock on wood, I haven't flipped yet, but it happens, and there are things that you just can't help it.
You're not talking about it. Can you text and row at the same time? No, because you can't drive and text.
No, but you can stop rowing and sort of answer a message or whatever if you have to. Yeah.
So you're out there nice and peaceful mornings and that type of thing, and you're out and so, to me, it's I guess I could see myself like doing, you're traveling down a couple miles of river. It's the coming back part that's got to. No.
Well,
So in
talking about tranquility, there are beautiful rows you can just go out and enjoy yourself and leave your heart rate at a fairly low level and just sort of steady state, sort of low aerobic pace. Or we go out and do workouts that are hard and grueling and very difficult, and I wouldn't necessarily call those tranquil moments on the river.
Yeah.
What we tend to do, both because of that same issue of current and conditions, we tend to go north when we row, so that coming back is with the current.
Yeah.
And it tends to be a little more predictable. Takes you a little longer to get where you're going than coming back and things like that. And if anybody sort of ran out of energy or became dehydrated or something, it'd be easier to get home. And the other piece is, as you go south past, there's an island down there and into Enfield, it gets very shallow.
Yeah.
Where the Enfield Dam used to be.
That's what I've that part I know, because you got to wait for the high water levels to take your boat out certain areas of the river, which
exactly.
I didn't know.
And so we don't need a lot of water, but after it gets more shallow than 6 or 8 inches, we can hit a log or whatever and take off the skeg of the boat, and then it becomes very difficult to steer. And if you put a hole in the boat, it becomes very difficult to float.
That's a problem. Yeah, you got your oars, but you got oars that they're not going to row them. So. How many people do you expect for Saturday?
So we'll probably have about 120 rowers or so, and we'll be we have some sponsors and some folks that are helping us make it work with Big Y and Friendlies and other folks. We're going to be feeding everybody at the end of the event. The racing will end right around lunchtime. Crank up the barbecue, flip the burgers, and have a good time and see people off. And
so are these racers broken up into classes, so the novice isn't competing with someone like you?
Yeah. Exactly. We have novices and then what we call seasoned, and then age groups, so that they're masters level basically every 10 years. Every decade of folks will just compete against folks in their age category. And then when you get over 65, the way we do it is, instead of breaking it up anymore, there's a handicapping mechanism per year. You get a couple of seconds taken away from your time, kind of thing.
When you start allowing motors on the boats, call me.
Yeah, so that'll be a different handicap, per horsepower.
Let me go back. You started your rowing at Wesleyan.
Yes.
Nothing before that?
No, I had grown up enjoying sort of little dinghies and things like that, and spending time on the water, but hadn't been a
So you went to Wesleyan, they offered a rowing team, and you joined in and fell in love with it. And what was when you were going to the Worlds, because the World Championships are the equivalent of the Olympics in the off years, right? And so when you were training for the Worlds, what was your typical day like? And were you out of college at that point?
I was out of college, yep. Had just been out of college for a couple of years. Training at the elite national team level at the time, and pretty much the same now. There were, what was it, maybe 16, 18 sessions per week. So there were lots of days where you would do 3 sessions a day.
On the river?
Or wherever you were. Exactly, on the river or lake. So that's 5, 6, maybe 7 hours of actual rowing on the river. Wow. Sometimes in the weight room. Just enough time in between to get something to eat, rest a little, do a little schoolwork or whatever you're doing. I was actually going through graduate school through most of the time there, as well as doing some consulting and other work. And most of the rowers tend to sort of live these 2 or 3 different lives, trying to sort of make ends meet while they're training.
So the rowing itself could have been a 6 or 7 hour day, just the rowing part of it and the workouts or whatever, and then you still had life to deal with. So you had a full-time job, which was rowing. So, and if you're going to graduate school, you say you did a little consultant work. Are you relying on sponsors at that point? And
there were some sponsors and some support. Basically, if you were at a particular elite level, the Olympic Committee would help subsidize, for instance, I spent several months out at the Olympic Training Center in San Diego. And so at that point, room and board was taken care of.
That sounds tough.
That was really
Diego,
tough, yeah. And it was a beautiful venue, and it was really nice to be out there. At the time, though, I was doing some work for Boston University, and it was sort of almost pre-internet days. So I had to beg, borrow, and steal an account from San Diego State University to be able to communicate with my professor at BU and things like that. But everybody was very supportive of the folks training at the training center there, and that was really helpful. And I think over time, you're talking about taking it up at Wesleyan and stuff. The sport has gotten quite popular, especially at college. Started out as sort of an Ivy League prep school kind of sport. It's spread quite a bit. In fact, Springfield had public high school rowing up until the 60s, and that was very unusual. There's now a lot of public high school rowing, and we're just now bringing it back to the Springfield schools as well as having some kids from Long Meadow. So
there will be rowing available in the Springfield high schools? Wow. Yeah. That's excellent.
Yeah, we have some kids from Renaissance School, hopefully Central, Putnam, and a couple of the schools we're talking to.
Okay. So how many gold medals do you have?
I have one from the World Championships. I have.
We needed bling on this show to make it pop.
I could have brought
should have been the
bling,
requirement.
I guess,
okay, so one from the World Championships.
One from the World Championships. 2 from the Pan Am Games, and then a couple from the Head of the Charles. A few from the U.S. National Championships and things of that nature. I have a few from. There's a big race in Canada called Canadian Henley. And I think that's about it.
Right. Yeah. So when you look at and that's awesome. I mean, I think that's competing at that level. And we're just coming off of watching the Summer Olympics and all that stuff. Yep. When you're at that level, it's got to be a neat thing to be part of. I mean, I'm sure it's not neat while maybe it is neat while you're in it because you're the rower as opposed to someone watching it from the outside because you have a different perspective of I got to get up that morning and have my best race ever and all that other stuff.
It's a lot of pressure.
So the pressure's there, but I think that's fantastic. So congratulations on that
Thank
alone.
you.
But so where would you is rowing? Like a regional sport? Is it more prolific because you said it started out as like Ivy League? Is it more prolific here than it is down south?
It has grown tremendously. Down south, for instance, I went and sort of organized a training camp down where my parents had been living in Tampa, and back at the day, that was in the early 90s, it was very unusual for rowers to be down there. It was a very new sport in Florida. Driving my boat down on the car, I got a lot of folks in the South sort of wondering if I was carrying a missile, and it was very.
They wanted to buy it from you to go hunting.
Right, exactly, hunting with the missile. But it's grown tremendously, both at the high school and college level, and a lot of schools from the Northeast go down for winter training or spring training, and in fact, they've just finished building a world-class facility in Saratoga that's going to be probably hosting a lot of big marquee events over the years.
It's probably different too, being on a river where there's alligators, and now you have some incentive to go
some more
fast.
obstacles. Absolutely.
That now you got like X Games of rowing and that type of thing. So
could turn into that, right?
So it's growing. It was more regional. Now it's starting to grow a little bit more.
It has become pretty ubiquitous, and with Title IX, basically most of the large universities have a rowing program, and a lot of them have scholarships, particularly for the women.
At the university level, and even like at what's going to happen in the Springfield Public Schools, I'm assuming the boats, you're not buying your own boat, so they're provided by the college. So you have a minimal maybe equipment type of investment into a sport like that, right? It's kind of like a soccer where you have cleats and, there's I don't know that's what I'm asking, is like, what do you, for kids that want to get involved in it, if, they're not buying their own boat, what's their requirement to, obviously you have to have some sort of equipment to get inside the boat.
Yeah, you don't need a lot of equipment as an individual. The club owns the equipment for the most part. Certainly as folks start wanting to compete at a high level in a single, they tend to want to have the latest, greatest equipment and sort of take on most of that burden. But in terms of an individual kid just coming out of school or wanting to come down to the river and row, basically we talk about having comfortable but not baggy clothing. So you can think it's very much like a cyclist. spandex, lycra kind of thing, because we're sitting on rolling seats. And if you're wearing sort of big baggy nylon basketball shorts, they'll tend to get stuck in the rollers. And so, we've had these experiences with kids, and so we learned from our experience that, something a little closer fitting would.
It makes getting out of the boat a little difficult, right?
That too. And as you roll up, you need your legs to completely compress, and if your wheels are getting stuck,
So besides shorts, the proper shorts for rowing, there's maybe gloves for your hands or something?
I discourage folks from wearing gloves for the most part. We create calluses over time, and you're able to feel the oar and have control and the dexterity you need to do it properly. Although there are a few folks that will use biking gloves or something. Okay. And certainly as it gets colder, you're going to be having more layers of thin slate or other kind of clothing to keep you warm, like if you're out skiing or whatever. But rowers tend to work pretty hard and work up a pretty good warm sweat. So, in the end, you don't need a whole lot.
And you probably need a cool pair of sunglasses as a
cool pair of sunglasses, maybe a pair of wool socks as it gets into October, November kind of thing. So,
and I'm joking around, but because that's what we do here. But for someone that, who's watching this and says, hey, that might, I'm looking for a different form of exercise, or it might be something I had an interest in, I just saw it on the Olympics. To go down, the place to contact is the Pioneer Valley Riverfront Club out of the Pioneer Valley. So can I look it up online? Is there a website and that type of thing?
We have a nice website, pvrowing.org. It's pioneervalleyrowing.org.
And we're going to put it up, we'll get the information up on LCTV as well, because they're going to re-air this once we're done with today. So again, someone who wants to try comes down to the club or contacts you through the website. They can take a test spin on the rivers or any I've never been rowing on the rivers or requirements.
So the structure of how it works, for the kids, there'll be programs and sessions, and we'll tend to start them in a team dynamic, in a team boat, probably with mostly inexperienced folks and maybe a couple experienced folks to follow and make sure it's safe. We need to have the kids swim tested and things like that to get a sense for whether they can swim or not. We also have life jackets and stuff to keep everybody safe. And then mostly for the adults or for folks who want to scull, we tend to give 4 lessons to get them up from completely beginner into this sort of intermediate place where they can navigate the river safely, know how the equipment all works, and know how to gather the fitness that they need as they go through the season. We have open house days, sort of learn to row days that we sponsor. Those have traditionally been mostly in June. I think as we get to our place where we have a new facility and stuff, we'll probably have more sort of each month through the summer, because we do have folks that call up in August, September, after the Olympics, things like that, saying I'd like to give it a try. And we get them out there one way or another. I'll bring folks out in a double and give them a little exposure to it.
That's cool. You get to row with a gold medalist, right? That's so cool. Listen, I'm not bad.
That works too.
Yeah. Now I got to toot your horn because you're not tooting it.
If you're ready to go, we can get you out there.
I might try that. I don't know.
I'll be your engine, since you said when you get an engine.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, good. That'll be the way. There is a stipulation. You're rowing. Listen, I can have a cigar while we're on the river now. Beautiful scenery. I'm excited for Longmeadow that this is happening here, because it's not, it's a unique event, and we usually, other than our baseball, football, which are soccer, we have great sports programs from youth on up. This is different, and we've had. We've had people, that are, let's say, sports celebrities, so to speak, from Longmeadow, the Jay Heaps of the world. And but I think, what I want to share with people today is that we have a world-class gold medalist in rowing who's organized this event in Longmeadow, and I think it's a great thing. We're going to call it the Longmeadow Yacht Club because that's what it is. It's not the Pioneer Valley thing. But so I don't know how much time we have left. Because this is a live program, we can quit whenever we want to, I guess. But and they have no choice. We could just walk out. How many?
4 minutes.
4 minutes. That's excellent. Through technology, we were able to determine how much time we have left. So, It starts at 8:30 on Saturday. And if you don't know where the yacht club is, you're going to go down to Emerson Road, and you go down Emerson Road, cross the train tracks, and you come to a dirt road. I love going. It just reminds me like we're in Kansas or something.
I describe it as the only dirt road left in Longmeadow.
Yep.
Kind of thing.
And you take this dirt road and you follow it, and you're going to bump into a house with a bunch of boats in front of it. So it starts at 8:30. It starts at the North End Bridge, more or less, or Memorial Bridge, comes down. First rowers will hit Longmeadow about what time?
Probably just shy of 9 o'clock.
Okay. Yeah. So if you really want to see the rowers as they're coming across, if you want to go down to the yacht club, I'm sure there's some viewing down there. I know they have a dock and all that stuff.
Yeah, and Longmeadow has the conservation land immediately south of the yacht club as well, which is a beautiful
and the river
place.
has been low, so there's actually, you can get down towards the riverbank and watch all these folks come by.
Yeah.
And it starts at 8:30. It'll end at 12 or so. And I think if you have some time on Saturday, I think it's a unique event to come down to in Longmeadow. We don't have this often happening in our, a regatta. See, when I think of regatta, I'm thinking about Caddyshack and Judge Smales and stuff like that. So
I will also make a plug that starting next week, we have our first fall youth program that's going to be starting
please make
up
as many
as well.
plugs as you want.
Yeah, and we already have at least 4 kids from Longmeadow signed up to do it and row through the fall, and probably go to a couple of other head races around New England.
And there's still time if people want to sign up for that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we're going to be able to take up to, I think, 25 or 30 kids. So.
Okay, so if you're interested in just checking it out, go down on Saturday, watch it, take a look at it. If you're interested in getting involved, it's pvrowing.org.
You got it.
And there's not many times, folks, in your life where you get to, have someone who can instruct you, who's a gold medalist, world-class athlete, and we have that here. So, Jonathan, I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I'm going to be down on Saturday. I'm going to come down and check it out, and maybe I'll take you up on the offer of being my engine.
Wonderful.
All right.
Thanks
folks,
so much.
Thanks for watching The Upside, and this will be replayed, but if you can, come down on Saturday. Sounds like a fantastic event happening here in Longmeadow. Thank you, and have a great day.